is this voice for peace also that's happening.
There is that visual of the army personnel also, when he meets up with this group of women at one of the villages. The ladies are chanting that, go back, please go back. They're bowing down, they're touching the floor with their foreheads and saying that please go back, please go back. That's how they're protesting against the army personnel, folding their hands, telling the army people to please go back. And the army also can't do anything. You can hear the army personnel in that particular one video that's doing the rounds on Twitter, where he says that, okay, mother, sorry, mother, I'm going back. And he circles his car back.
Yeah, this is the ground reality that we are seeing there, where there are voices of peace, but there are people who are stopping from peace from happening on the ground, because that is the kind of emotional flare-up that is there. Of course, rightly so in certain quarters, because they are at angst at what is happening to both the community, because there's so much of violence, and emotional outbursts are going to be there. But the sustained emotional outbursts as leading to violence is something that is of worry. And let me also take you to another protest that happened. Well, we are talking about the peace protest, but then in Imphal, there was another protest that happened, and this was with regard to yesterday when Prime Minister's Man Ki Baat was going, and most of the people shouted over there saying that no Man Ki Baat, yes to Manipur Ki Baat. So people are protesting against the Prime Minister's silence with regard to, or perceived silence with regard to what is happening in Manipur. So that has also come up as an issue in Manipur as now. And of course, meanwhile, I was actually saying that the Mizoram government has also given some kind of assurance. They've said that it bemoans the ongoing violence and has taken certain steps and measures to abate it. They also went on to say that further supportive actions have been taken along with the government of Manipur and the central government to ensure that there is security. So the Mizoram is also taking up these issues quite seriously.
The RSS has now intervened. The RSS in a statement, and it's nobody nobody other than Dattatreya Hosable himself, said that there's no place for violence. So the RSS has appealed for Manipur peace. On the other hand, the Congress has come out again saying that, you're, too late to the party. We're way beyond just calling out and, giving statements that suggest that there should be peace in Manipur.
Well, it's not, when it comes to Manipur, I think a lot of people are just awakening to the intensity of the violence that's happening. It's been, the violence happened from May 3rd onwards. And, when
we're sitting on the 19th of June today.
Yes, we are sitting on 19th of June. So just more than a month, the violence has been going on.
Still it's not under control.
It's not under control. And that in fact shows from the fact that we have RK Ranjan Singh, the Union Minister himself, coming and saying that, law and order situation in the state has failed. It's coming from you and...
Take a look at this. This is coming from a Manipur ruling alliance partner, which says that if government is not able to take care of people's safety, it has failed. This is an express interview with Yumnam Joykumar, the National People's Party leader. The NPP is an ally of the BJP, not just in Manipur and Meghalaya, but also the NDA at the center.
So, I mean, this is quite worrisome at the moment, and other parties have also joined in. In fact, the AAP has joined in, saying that BJP is expanding its factory of hatred. AAP is again speaking on political terms on this. So they've in fact hit out on this. They're saying that it charged the party, that is the BJP, with perpetuating strife among cookies and meaties. So this thing. Meanwhile, as you rightly pointed out, Hindus also covered that part, that RSS appeals for peace in strife hit Manipur, as you said. And one more story that is interesting enough related to Manipur. Amid Manipur unrest, spike in trafficking of drugs in Mizoram, the state neighboring Manipur. The unrest in adjoining Manipur appears to have led to a spike in the trafficking of drugs and other contraband items in Mizoram. Both the states have been conduits of drug trade from Myanmar and beyond in Eastern and Southeastern Asia. Traffickers have often used the areas along the More-Zungwan axis in Manipur and the Zogwatar Kolasib axis in Mizoram. But since May 3rd, when violence broke out in Manipur, trafficking of heroin, cocaine, methamphetamine and cannabis, apart from areca nuts and foreign cigarettes, has registered a spike in Mizoram. So you see, the lawlessness in Manipur could have a destabilizing effect even on adjoining states. So it's not a Manipur issue alone. It is an issue when it comes to the issue about what the state, the stability of the states of the entire Northeast. You can't have so many displaced people moving around Northeast. You can't have the rise in this kind of trafficking when it comes to drugs, because when there is breakdown of law and order situation, of course, the police who are supposed to man the post, they're trying to restore peace, and then this is actually, this
because
shows that
this tells us that the supply of that particular trade is important for people on both sides of the border, and that supply is huge,
and they're taking advantage of the situation
and
now.
make use of those loopholes as well. If not Manipur, then the neighboring states.
They are in fact making, they are taking advantage of the lawlessness that we are seeing in this place. And of course, when the Hindustan Times had, on the same lines, in fact, had spoken about how the situation is in Manipur. We have in fact covered most of it. And the issue over here, everyone and a lot of them are asking is, when can peace come to Manipur? Because when we speak to some of our guests also, when we have later discussions, all of them are saying that, see, this is a geostrategic situation that we are looking at. Look at the larger picture. It is just not a law and order situation. You have to bring law and order back to the state as fast as possible. You're supposed to, in fact, make sure that, when it comes to Manipur, things are restored as fast as possible. Because, as I was saying, if you look at
How does one do that? How does one do that? How does one restore it as fast as possible?
Either two things. Either you become strict with the local government, because here we are talking about polarization in the local bureaucracy itself. And when you come to the police or when you come to the forces on the ground, they are met with a lot of resistance when it comes to the local, situation. Because you see, the local bureaucracy, they'll have to go back to their own communities. The local politicians will have to go back to their communities. And each community will weigh them on how they responded in this crisis. So they are in a bind. So they'll have to look like they are pro whatever community they are. So when they are looking at that level, they are looking at next general elections, whether they can actually make it or not. So that is the level at which they are looking at. But that doesn't mean that you can let this situation go. So shun aside the politics. Probably a president's rule is what we require right now, because there's so much of trust deficit and there is so much of breakdown of the administration in the state. The entire state should be now governed for the next 6 months or whatever period of optimum time when it comes to Manipur. It should be going for a president's rule, so that the forces on the ground, these are battle-hardened men when it comes to the army or the Assam Rifles, or they are there to carry out peace, and they know how to do it. But of course, the kind of challenges they are facing because of the local situation is something that's stopping them from carrying out the kind of work they are supposed to do. So, and plus, the army has been having spats with the local police. This is the level at which that we are in fact looking at. So, I mean, there should be some way to carry on with this.
Some of the Methi BJP MLAs are in the national capital to meet the Prime Minister. How do you think that's going to, affect the Kuki community or, the other dissenting side here?
Well, all of them have been, whether even from the Kuki side, there have been BJP MLAs have been trying to meet with the Prime Minister. So now I think the pressure is being built on the Prime Minister to do something immediately. We had the Home Minister in place. You had the Home Minister visiting the camps.
But how does the Prime Minister meeting just one side of?
It's not one side. He will probably meet the other BJP. Right now, we know that the Methis are waiting to meet the Prime Minister. Now, the divisive issue about Biren Singh is what I think most of them will be trying to address at the moment. Biren Singh is also expected to reach the national capital, because right now you have union ministers' houses being burned. Everybody is saying law and order is failing at different levels. So there should be some action on the ground right now, and I think that action should be taken the way it should be taken, because right, as I was saying, you cannot let the state be lawless right now, because there are people who are taking advantage of that situation, because it is in a strategic gateway towards Southeast Asia, and it could have a destabilizing effect on the other northeastern states as well, which shouldn't let what we should, that is not what we should let it happen.
Mizoram Chief Minister has backed the Manipur government and the centre amidst growing criticism of the N. Biren Singh-led BJP government's handling of the situation. And I'll tell you what, this particular sentiment is out there in a lot of newspapers, that the administration in the state, the Biren Singh government essentially, has failed to take care of the law and order situation. Says that handling of the situation in Manipur and the rising demands for a separate administration from the Kuki-Zumi communities in the state. Mizoram Chief Minister on Sunday said that he was supportive of the steps taken by the Manipur government and the centre, and that the people of Mizoram are empathetic towards the Methi community.
Well, it's also, a concern about tribal ties that are there on both the sides.
More than, laying balm on wounds, this just sounds like, adding salt to those wounds.
Well,
to the situation rather.
Yeah, so we have to be, in fact, let us in fact wait and watch what the situation could.
I don't know, Varghese. I think people have been waiting and watching for a long time now. It's been quite a long time. We're nearing about 2 months ever since the violence broke out. I mean, this is our state. We can't take care of our own people. Is that what it's come to? And I totally and truly understand that, sitting here from the studio, it's way easier said than done.
Well, it is way easier, and also one thing that we should understand is there are complexities that are involved in this. It is not a simple. There is a history to this. There is historical context to this, and there is ethnic issues that are also dominating when it comes to this. So all these factors are something that has been going on when it comes to Manipur. So it's not an easy solution that we have. No, there is no magic wand for a easy solution in Manipur right now. Or you have to go and take up that one solution that is that is to bring it under president's rule, ensure that the armed forces or the paramilitary forces are in charge of the entire security. Wait for, after bringing under the president's rule, create peace committees, let it go for 6 months, suspend the politics of the situation right now.
Hasn't that peace committee completely collapsed?
Yes, it's a non-starter. The peace committee is completely a non-starter. And we can't do anything about it because, of course, everyone has a reservation when it comes to the peace committee, and everyone has been pointing out to the peace committee as well. So it is going to be very difficult on that issue, because without a peace committee, you can't build bridges. That's as simple as that.
Something's got to give. Something's got to give. If we want Manipur to stop burning, something's got to give. We need people to come back onto the negotiation table and really start talking again. Without the peace committee, I don't think there's going to be any forward step in Manipur. Separate administration or not, president's rule or not, the continuing violence in Manipur, how will that be controlled? Will it be controlled or not? These are pressing issues, and we can only hope that good sense prevails. Let's wait and watch. 11 a.m. Varghese is when I believe we have the experts for the detailed discussion on Manipur yet again today, bringing you voices from both the sides since day one, since the 3rd of May, and we're not letting go of Manipur, are we, Varghese? No. Let's also move on, from the northeast, let's move to the North India. In North India, where the entire region continues to swelter in extreme heatwave-like conditions, in Uttar Pradesh's Ballia, and a similar incident has happened in Bihar as well, but focusing on Uttar Pradesh's Ballia, where more than 400 people got admitted in a district hospital, complaining of fever and breathlessness, and 54 deaths that have been confirmed as per government data over the last 3 days as well. What are you picking up, Varghese? There's controversy around it as well, because Uttar Pradesh's killer heat wave, this alleged link between the deaths and the heat wave, the chief officer has been removed from that hospital, and the district magistrate has come out and said that, boss, this is not related. It wasn't related to heat wave. There is no concrete evidence that this linkage exists.
I'll just read the report that's there in the Hindu. 54 people admitted at Uttar Pradesh's Ballia District Hospital have died in the last 3 days, following which a team of health department from Lucknow has reached the hospital to ascertain the cause of deaths. The deaths came amid the heatwave conditions in the region. However, Ballia Chief Medical Officer Dr. Jaikumar said only 2 people have died due to heat stroke till Sunday. Nearly 400 patients were admitted to the district hospital from June 15 to June 17, they said, adding all the patients who died were above the age of 60 years. Meanwhile, Chief Medical Superintendent of the district hospital, Dr. Divakar Singh, was removed and sent to Azamgarh, allegedly after he made a remark about the cause of deaths. As per records of the district hospital, of the 54 deaths, 40% of the patients had fever, while 60% were suffering from other diseases. So far, only 2 persons have died due to heat stroke.
Well, the probe team, interestingly here, has said that they did not die because of the heat wave, even as 54 people died in just 72 hours at a UP hospital. I mean, it just sounds fishy. I think if it isn't heat wave and somebody is really behind it, they really would have gotten away with the heat wave excuse. But if it is not heat wave and the timing is also suspect, what really has happened is quite intriguing. I mean, it quite made me really curious about the entire
It's very
situation.
simple. There's something called comorbidities, okay? And if your body starts weakening because of any other external reasons that it could be, these comorbidities, of course, will add into it. Now, here, are you interpreting that the comorbidities were the reason, making it the primary reason and not the heat wave as a reason for the deaths of, and most of them you claim are above the age of 60, saying that, you know, they were having age-related issues. So, again, how did you interpret the data is the question there.
Well, prima facie, and this is coming from the probe team, prima facie, these do not appear to be heat wave related deaths because nearby districts facing similar conditions are not throwing up similar death figures. The initial symptoms were of chest pain, mostly, which is not the first symptom for someone affected by a heat wave. This coming from a senior government doctor, RK Singh. He's also claimed that the deaths could be water related. Now that could be a different angle at play. So maybe the probe team could also, you know, whilst they're at it, investigate what's really the problem with the water in the area.
Maybe that, if that is the case, they should also investigate that part of it, because if they suspect it to be water, and that means still people are consuming that water in that area, then I think they should in fact look into that matter as fast as possible.
All right, so it will be investigated. The deaths, if the deaths were due to water or if there is a different reason, the climate department is also going to be hitting the ground running, and they're going to check water samples as well. But in Bihar, what do you say about Bihar, Varghese? I mean, there are some deaths that have taken place in Bihar as well.
This is the time when we see
nearly 100 people killed in both these states.
I say let the investigations take place right now. The investigation should take place right now, because there's only one reason that we need to have these investigations to go forward, is to find out why is it that there is a sudden spike of these deaths and whether it is related to the heat wave or not. Secondly, even in Bihar also, if there are cases like that, and we have been getting from the Met Department, there have been reports coming in that, you know, a lot of these areas, especially in eastern Uttar Pradesh and in Bihar, we are going to see heat wave like conditions, and there have been reports coming in from other places as well. So these conditions are going to continue for the next 3 days. So let the investigations happen on the deaths of these people, because if there is that angle on water could be the reason, let that also be investigated, but it has to be investigated.
All right. Well, let's quickly move on. We've got crime stories from the national capital. And Varghese, you know, I'm going to ask you this. So what's really happening in Delhi? I mean, a slew of murder cases, back-to-back crime cases. People don't really bother about somebody's head being smashed on the floor.
In full public view.
In full public view. Murders that are taking place. People chopping up each other's bodies, keeping them in their refrigerators, absolutely okay with it. And now 2 sisters that were shot dead. The sisters were trying to, you know, rescue their brother from an argument over an alleged loan deal. These 2 sisters, you know, 29 and 30 years old, were shot dead. And there's a video that's doing the round. It's gone viral on social media, where you can see 4 or 5 people, unidentified, of course. There are several other arrests as well. Now 5 people have been arrested in the case. And in the video, you can see, you know, the people hurling abuses at these women, and suddenly the firing noise comes about, and you can make out that the 2 women have been hit. They died mid-treatment. What are you picking up?
See, the question over here is very simple. The question over here is, as you point, one is the law and order situation that you were speaking about. And then look at the story. I mean, I'm just reading it from the Hindustan Times. There's an article right now on this, and all the papers have covered it. In fact, it's there on the Hindu, there is there on the Tribune, and I know it's there on the Times of India as well. The story is that you know, uh, 15 armed men is what the Hindustan Times. Delhi sisters shot dead as 15 armed men stormed their home. Okay, that is the headline that they put in. Hours after a group of men shot and killed 2 women in South Delhi's RK Puram, of course, Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal has asked about this issue about law and order when it comes to it. The LG's office did not respond to those allegations by the Bharatiya Janata Party, but by AAP. And then they give the details of the murder. The murders took place early on Sunday around 3:45 a.m. Okay, this happened in the wee hours of the morning when around 15 armed men entered the Ambedkar Basti in RK Puram and shot dead 2 sisters identified as Pinky and Jyoti, as you mentioned. Kejriwal has in fact said that his thoughts are with the family, and tweeting in Hindi, he said the people of Delhi have started feeling very, very insecure. Now, Kabir, this story shouldn't be seen in, isolation. There is one more story that is attached to it, and that's with regards to a DU student who was killed for objecting to harassment of his girlfriend. He was stabbed to death.
Absolutely. I mean, and that duo story, we're going to move on to it just in a little bit. There is politics over this, particular law and order situation. BJP and Aam Aadmi Party at each other's throats at this point in time. Again, another bullet in Arvind Kejriwal's arsenal, where he says that, hey, look, I don't even have the Delhi police under my control. What do you want me to do?
That has always been the case. Whenever there is a big crime in Delhi, the question that Arvind Kejriwal would do is that he would go to that place, speak to the family, done everything, and then he would go ahead and say that, boss, I can't do anything much because law and order is in the hands of the central government. He makes it very clear that the central government is involved in it. You ask all these pointed questions along with this to the central government. So he makes it very clear whenever such things happen. And the BJP, of course, has hit against him, saying that don't make politics of a tragedy that has happened. But look at this, 3:45 a.m., 15 armed people over a loan issue. You walk in and they can shoot 2 women. And
Yeah.
I think one of them was a mother to 2 children and the other was a mother to 3 children. Okay. Now, this is the tragedy that we are talking about. Okay. And it was over money. It was over this loan that was given to them, or their brother rather. And then this kind of murder happens right in the middle of the city. Where are we headed? Is Delhi in fact secure at all? And then you have the others, the students' murder as well.
The sisters, Jyoti, 29, and Pinky, 35, sustained bullet injuries to their abdomen, hand, and their back. Their family rushed them to Safdarjung Hospital, where they died during treatment due to severe injuries and blood loss. A purported video of the incident, which went viral on social media, shows 4-5 assailants hurling abuses and shooting at the victims. The women and their children are seen screaming and running for help. According to the family, the sisters and their children had come to RK Puram's Ambedkar Basti a few days ago to celebrate their younger brother Lala's wedding anniversary. On Saturday night, their elder brother Lalit went to meet a group of men to ask them for money he loaned them earlier. Police sources said a fight broke out between them near KD Colony area, and Lalit allegedly threatened the men and left. Around 3:30 a.m. on Sunday, the men along with a few associates came to Lalit's house and pelted stones. The family said they locked the doors, but the accused, around 7-10 of them, threw bricks, hurled abuses and threatened to kill Lalit and left. Around 4:15 a.m. is when they returned and the entire ordeal took place. But let's shift our focus here, going to the Delhi University case over here. Objecting to friends is harassment. I mean, this seems to be like a brave step coming from a student. The deceased has been identified as Nikhil Chauhan. He's a DU student who's been stabbed to death outside
From Aryabhatta College.
He's a 19-year-old student of Delhi University, stabbed to death allegedly for objecting to his woman friend being harassed by another student. The incident took place on Sunday right outside Aryabhatta College in the south campus of the Delhi University.
I mean, 19-year-old's life snuffed out because he stood up against those people who were harassing a woman. I mean, nobody has learnt a lesson from the time
And South Campus is it's so populated. I understand it's a Sunday and this happened right outside the college campus, but why wouldn't people step in these kind of situations is the entire, situation.
Fear of law, one, because they think they'll have to go through the process of law. A lot of things, people don't want to get involved into it. As long as I am safe with my own, small situation, I am happy about it. That could be one of the reasons.
Police
because
said
that
a
is
group of 4 or 5 unidentified men came on bikes and allegedly stabbed the victim in the chest. CCTV footage captured near the college has surfaced online, which showed the accused escaping on 2 scooters and a bike. No arrest has been made yet, and raids are being conducted to nab the accused. This coming from the police. The DCP of Southwest area, Manoj C. He said that we received a PCR call from Charak Palika Hospital at South Campus Police Station about the stabbing. The injured student was brought to the hospital by other students and locals. Nikhil was an SOL student. Police said around a week ago, another SOL student had misbehaved with Nikhil's friend. When Nikhil objected, the accused got angry and decided to take revenge. Police added that around 12:30 p.m. on Sunday, the student, along with 3 of his associates, met Nikhil outside the college and stabbed him in the chest.
all because he objected to what was happening.
This is the price one has to pay for being brave today.
This is, and
I mean, that's the temperament of people in the
Chauhan
national
was
capital that we're talking about essentially.
and Chauhan
You
is a-
honk on somebody's car a little aggressively.
And you
don't
in fact get
know if the
into
guy's going
road
to step
rage,
out with an armed weapon.
You get into a road rage incident where you don't know what is going to happen in you can't object, you can't tell anything. You are at the receiving end of anyone and everything over here, and this is in fact shocking. I mean, two incidents of this lawlessness that we are seeing. It's in fact quite shocking as to it's happening in the national capital. That is one. It's happening in the national capital. That is one, which is more shocking. Secondly, it is the kind of the lack of empathy that we see when it comes to such situations.
And look at the politicians.
These are just
they're busy.
They're busy blaming
in
each other.
brinkmanship.
They're in the brinkmanship. One trying to have an ace over these tragedies, and the other trying to defend itself on it. But the question is, the losses are to those families that happened.
Well, what's going to happen on Delhi, the law and order situation in the national capital and the temperament of people. That's what's worrying me the most. That, I mean, we're not a bunch of, happy, smiling people. You take a walk in Connaught Place today, I'm sure you're not going to find anybody smiling at each other. There's no good mornings, no greeting each other anymore. The parks have curfews. You can't sit together in parks. Every place has a particular rule and restriction. It's just, beautiful facades right on the outside, but internally, I think the people of Delhi, are we missing out on really living, taking a second and, breathing in the air, which, by the way, is again so polluted. In this rat race, where are we headed to?
Kabir, you have a lot of angst about it, rightfully, because you have been from the city. And one thing is for sure, this is not how you want to showcase the national capital as a lawless
sister
place,
shot dead,
a
trying to
polluted
save
place.
their brother. You can't have a conversation with anybody anymore.
You can't. It's on a different level. But then the question is that how come they have weapons with them?
Absolutely. So, tighter restrictions, law and order situation, away from the politics and kept the politics aside. 5 arrests made in the sisters shooting case. No arrest yet in the boy who bravely stood up for his friend and was stabbed to death right outside Delhi University, his college, the South Campus, Aryabhatta College. On the front page, I was taking a look at the Prime Minister's visit, the state visit to the United States, that is being spoken about a lot. There are several advertisements. I don't think it's on the Indian Express, must be on one of the other newspapers. He's going to go there. There are so many deals that are on the line, Anthony Blinken has come out and welcomed his particular visit. Galtier is welcoming the Prime Minister to the United States. So many deals that are going to be signed. Uh, what are you picking up?
Well,
The jet technology.
well, you know,
How is that going to be a game changer? The drone deal,
I
$3
would
billion drone
exactly,
deal.
exactly. So now my this thing is: are we moving away from Russia and moving more into the United States' ambit? And if we are moving towards the United States, then what is the issues that we are going to handle? Because we have a very bitter experience with the United States when we carried out, especially during the AB Vajpayee era, when in the Vajpayee era, when we conducted the nuclear weapons test and the US went on a sanctions spree. In fact, denying even critical technologies, especially what they considered as dual-use technology or technology that can be used for nuclear weaponization as well. So anyway, that was in the past, and of course, a lot of water has flown under the bridge. But now, when we are moving, the US seems to be keen in sharing technology with India on two fronts, because India's defense industry has always worked, or India's political clout has always worked on transfer of technology. So, when it comes to some of India's critical components, the US has also recognized that India has always been looking for a jet engine. Most of our, even our in Tejas, the engine that we have is from the US. It's a GE 404, and now they're planning to make it a GE 414 engine. And it is a very critical, aspect of it. We are looking at a 90 kiloton KN engine right now, and probably make it to 110 KN engine. So right now the issue has always been whether which country is ready to transfer. We've been in talks with France, so the France also has promised about a joint development for these jet engines, and now the US is ready to go ahead and share some critical aspects about the jet engine. But my question is, would it be something like how Russia shares? Because when it comes to Russia, Russia is very open about the technology that they share with us, especially critical technology that they share with us. They have been building our defense capacity. We have also been relying on them for building our defense capacities. The kind of relationship that we have with Russia is on the defense scale is totally different. I mean, it's never seen anywhere across the world, and the closest that the kind of defense relationship that we have with Russia is the closest that we have with Israel, where again there is transfer of technology, joint development of technology. So I think the US probably is trying to break out of that mold. The last time they had something of this sort, like someone with whom they sold critical technologies and gave critical technologies on this large scale, was with the Shah of Iran in the 1970s. Even before the US had the latest weapons, the Shah of Iran had US weapons with him. So are we going to look forward to something more than that, where we go for joint development in our critical capacities? There is. So if that is the thing, that means slowly the US might replace Russia when it comes to critical armament. And of course, there is a huge fight for India's defense pie. You have the top contenders being the US, Israel, as well as France and Russia. Russia is still dominating our market because most of our weapons are from them. But the recent wars with Ukraine has resulted in Russia, in fact, having a problem in
taking
giving
a
supply
global
parts.
reputation hit of sorts.
Yeah, but also when it comes to supply of spare parts, there is a huge issue.
To be honest, India has its own troubles of budget constraints as well, and that's where Russia plays a crucial part for us. But the Modi-Biden bonhomie, and let's just show this to the viewers. This is a copy of the Times of India, which today on the second page says Modi-Biden bonhomie boosts India-US strategic proximity, with a picture of Prime Minister Narendra Modi with United States President Joe Biden. Says United States President extending a touch of personal warmth for the PM events, and that is true. I've on the lighter note have spoken about and in my friend circle imitated the friend shakes of the Prime Minister as well, and the passion with which he goes for those handshakes. It's not formal anymore. It's like, two lost friends from childhood that are meeting again. Even in Australia, you remember how he was standing with the Australian Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, in front of the Opera House, in front of all those, all those optics. It felt like they were really, really friends and not diplomatic counterparts.
Well, that is something that we have all seen how when it comes to Prime Minister being in in the United States, he has had a lot of, especially not in the United States, especially with the Western Hemisphere as well as with the Western world, he has made that extra effort to have a one-on-one relationship with with his counterparts there, and he tries to not only have a diplomatic relationship but also a personal ties with the families as well as with the leaders of these nations, and probably he leverages it also when it's time on when it's time as well. He's been trying to build a global clout when it comes to him being at the center of focus as well. When it's about probably he's the only person who had the ability to tell Putin that this is not the time, this is not the era of war. And that's because of the kind of relationship that India has with Russia, and also he enjoys with Putin as well. So the Prime Minister has developed over the 9 years the kind of relationship with people that sometimes there are very hard facts to be told, and he can tell it on their face without blinking as well. But he uses it very rarely. He uses that opportunities very rarely to make those statements. But it is a part of the larger diplomatic effort. And when it comes to the US, I think the Prime Minister might look at US and also see, US is a huge trading partner for us. US is looking to diversify its supply base. Sooner or later, we are going to find that US could also become a big defense partner for us as well.
All right.
It's already slowly building up to that.
What's going to come, from that state visit when the Prime Minister is going to be visiting the United States between the 21st and the 25th of June. And on his way back, he's also going to have some time to stop by in Egypt for an official visit to Egypt as well. And there you have it. This is exactly what I was looking for. Look at that picture. Just showcase it to the viewers. This right here. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the US President Joe Biden. Says Indo-American Chamber of Commerce welcomes Eric Garcetti as US Ambassador to India and Prime Minister Narendra Modi's state visit to the United States. Let's quickly take a look at the Adipurush row as well, ladies and gentlemen. That's something that we've got to quickly talk about as well, because the movie has faced a lot of backlash, and not just in India, in Nepal as well. Nepal's, Kathmandu mayor has come out and said that, the depiction of Sita is wrong. Sita has been depicted as the daughter of India. She's the daughter of Nepal. Even in the Ram Mandir's building, I remember the big stone that was brought in from Nepal, traveled all the way from Janak, the place, Sita, the daughter of Janak. You can't really mess with mythology in a country like India when you know that, religion is paramount. So why would you end up hurting, people's sentiments in Nepal? So is that particular claim justified? And not just that.
I don't even agree to that. I don't even agree to it. I'll tell you why. Because our civilizational boundaries, not modern India, but our civilizational boundaries, where does our country start from? It starts from Afghanistan and it goes straight away to Southeast Asia. This is our civilizational boundaries, all right? Historically, this is our civilizational boundaries. So when Nepal on modern context says that, she's not a daughter of India or things like that, it doesn't hold, because you're talking from a modern boundary. And India as a country, or India as a civilization's boundary, starts from there. And that is why, the RSS might call it Akhand Bharat. I would call it the civilizational boundary. And it's not, when you talk about India's civilizational boundaries, we are not talking about, these nations, because all these nations have a claim to Ramayana, where all are civilizational boundaries, up to Indonesia.
You've got the Ravana being worshipped in Thailand and several other places as well.
I mean, so I'm saying this is it's a huge epic, it's a civilizational epic. So nobody can lay, even for us, if we, even Indians can't lay a complete claim to Ramayana to a large extent. Because, there are people who have adopted it more than us.
But right? the movie itself, it's not just this Kathmandu mayor's, concern over here. People who have watched the movie have come out and said that, it's bad visual effects. The storyline isn't really, that cracking. And the dialogues given to Hanumanji in particular, are very tapori type, very gully boyish. You can hear him say that.
Yes, exactly.
You can hear
a lot of people, in fact,
Lanka laga denge. तेरे बाप की जला देंगे.
You know what, you have actually hit this thing. I was looking at the reviews yesterday. Yesterday when I was sitting at home, I was actually Kabir looking at the reviews. I was looking at reviews from from the Telugu states, from Kerala, from Tamil Nadu, from Karnataka, and then I was looking at the reviews coming in from the Hindi heartland as well. There is a sense of disappointment. Most of them, when they thought of Adipurush, they were thinking of going and seeing Ramayana. They didn't expect Rawat's interpretation of Ramayana in
a particular incident of the Ramayana.
And then, using dialogues from South movies.
Basically, it's safe to say now that, an epic that is of the standard and stature of the Ramayana, if you want to fiddle with it, be very sure of your research. Be very sure of your research and approach it with utmost sensitivity.
These characters. I mean, for example, how does Ram speak? How does Hanumanji speak? You can't degrade them with these dialogues, for God's sake. I mean, you and I have grown on Ramayana that's come in Ramanand Sagar's Ramayana in 1987. We have all seen it. It's got some kind of an aura to it. You can't destroy that.
Take a look at this. This is a small little excerpt from the Indian Express. It says, Adipurush makers are going to revise dialogues after backlash. There's going to be a new version that is going to be out this week. So from saving one seat for Lord Hanuman in all these cinemas to now facing backlash where people will not view your film at all, and now you have to bring about a new version.
See, there is this
The tables are turned instantly.
There's this crassness that has come in the sense that you wanted to give punch dialogues, all right? And that is why you wrote certain dialogues that are, you can't imagine.
There's a reason why Dabang exists for a reason, and there's a reason why you would expect different things from a Ramayana.
You can't mix crass dialogues where it doesn't work into an epic like this. This epic is revered. It's a revered epic. You can't destroy this like this.
Well, absolutely. We're running short of time over here. So much to decode and discuss. All the people who've gotten down in the comment sections over various streams, many thanks for joining us and helping us understand what you would really like to talk about during the day and discussions. 11 a.m. is when we talk about Manipur, that particular sarcastic exchange between MB Patil and BL Santosh. One saying that there are cracks in the BJP Karnataka unit, and the other saying that you've really shown your top leader Rahul Gandhi his place, haven't you, by calling in investment from Adani in Karnataka. That is something that is also going to be talked about. That's all the time we have for you. This is Kabir Naqvi signing off with Varghese P. Abraham. Continue to be with us throughout the day. We've got all the cracking updates for you. Keep watching News 9 Live.
I think the reality is that there was a huge hiring spree that happened globally.
You might reduce your electricity consumption, which will save you 1 or 2% or 0.1%. You might reduce a little office space, which will save you maybe 1 or 2%. But you reduce your staff, you save 10% overnight.
Economic reality did not force Google to lay off 12,000 of our coworkers.
Companies are trying to attract them with higher and higher salaries, and sometimes these things are also hype.
There was a surge and a frenzied hiring that happened, particularly starting from, let's say, end 2021.
They should have seen the writing on the wall many months back and conserved cash. So what should have been done maybe 1 or 2 quarters ago, they're doing right now.
Every morning you wake up, you read the headlines, they're shouting at you, 9,000 fired, 18,000 laid off, 50,000 gone. These are not the kind of numbers that one is used to seeing in papers every day.
You are fired.
When we entered 2023, we were looking at trouble at Twitter. Elon Musk had just taken over and more than half of the global workforce had been wiped out almost instantly. Little did we know at that time that the trouble at Twitter was a very different chapter, and there was a trouble of a different kind brewing in the big tech industry in the US. And that sort of led to what I refer to as the layoff pandemic. It wasn't restricted to one company. It wasn't restricted to a few employees. It happened in thousands. And when you talk about big tech, this is an industry that drives Silicon Valley, that drives a major chunk of the global economy. And you had the likes of Meta, which was earlier called Facebook. You had the likes of Amazon, Microsoft, Google's parent Alphabet. Everybody literally laying off employees in thousands. It continued to make headlines every day. There was a ticker that we were maintaining in our newsrooms, and there were more zeros added to it every day as we progressed.
I think the reality is that there was a huge hiring spree that happened globally. So I think right now everybody's realizing that they need to do more with less. I think global tech companies, they are looking at the macro environment in terms of how tech is doing, and just doing, in some cases, pruning is not a bad thing.
As far the Western companies, particularly in America, are concerned, this is a correction. If you look at the hiring they had over the last 2 years, that's enormous. They hired much more than they needed. The cost base went up. Now they're finding the revenues not growing at the same pace because many of them are getting saturated.
Well, that's part of the reason, because you focus so much just on the top line and it's growing. When that top line stops growing, then everybody starts worrying and people begin pulling out money. Or money is not, infusion is not as much as you thought. You're not even pulling out money. No investors may not pull out their money, but new investment that you expected is not coming. You suddenly realize, hey, I can't survive like this. And then you find that you've got to cut costs. And how do you cut costs? These are people companies. No? That's one of the things of this whole sector.
But even after layoff, the employee count in the tech industry is still at the same level at where it was before the pandemic started. So I don't see that as an area of big concern. The only thing that is concerning is that because the industry is maturing, we will not expect the same kind of growth we saw, say, last 3 years or last 5 years.
I don't think any of us could have foreseen what happened, that COVID coming and hitting us as badly. Ukraine, the war at Ukraine, I don't think that was something that you can factor in, right? The recent Silicon Valley Bank. So it isn't that companies don't, plan in these unforeseen, but the magnitude of these unforeseen is what is something that I don't think anyone could. If they could, I think every company would, why would somebody want to hire and then fire?
It's been obvious for a while that the P&L of big tech is inflated, and it's inflated on many counts. What you see in terms of the product, of the technology, of servers, etc., there's not technology cost, but the real R&D cost comes from the developers who are there. And these developers are all obviously picked up from the best institutions. They are picked up sometimes with experience, sometimes without experience. But what tends to be noticed is that the salary bills are really inflated.
That's something that's both in the US. I've seen it. It's been ridiculous in terms of some of the salaries that were being offered and paid. Campus placement, 120 and 130 is nothing. You're hearing 250K, 300K, and you're really like, really? You're offering this kid who's just graduated. And then companies had to, kind of look at it and say, hey, do we really need such expensive talent on our books?
The fact that we are giving higher salaries to the people who are in the software sector, whether that's the reason for the backlash, that could be one of the reasons. People who are actually contributing in cutting edge technologies, whether it is in artificial intelligence, machine learning, they add some value. And then if they are in short supply, companies are trying to attract them with higher and higher salaries. What we are talking of is not necessarily only starting salaries. We are talking about people who are middle level, senior level people who have been attracted to a company so that they can get a competitive edge over other tech companies. And the tech companies in many of these areas, they want to be seen as being the